Welcome to Always in Escrow with Serena Appel and Colby Burchin. Hello, Colby.
Hello, Serena.
I am thrilled to introduce our guest today, Jenna Wolfe, the former NBC News anchor and Fox Sports morning show host. She does the public speaking thing, the TV thing, the fitness thing, and the mom thing times two on the daily. Jenna, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. It makes me exhausted to hear all the things that I do, but I love when they are laid out like that. But that's it. I think like 5 seconds after childbirth, you just have to accept that you're going to be exhausted for the rest of your God-given life. And once you accept that, even men, once you accept that you are now a parent and that you're just going to be tired all the time, then you can go about your daily doings. And so thank you for listing all those things. But yeah, I'm having a good time. I appreciate you having me.
We love how you share your journey publicly. You are always sharing on Instagram. We know you have very early mornings sometimes, and you've also persevered through an incredible health experience that we're going to get to talk to you about. And we're always very inspired by you, Jenna.
Thank you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm inspired by the last 3 minutes of you telling me how awesome I am. If I could start every day with you just introducing me to my children as I leave my bedroom to wake them up, it would really go a long way towards letting them see the things that you clearly see. So that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get right to it. What is harder, morning news anchor or a mom of two?
Mom of two. Mom of two is harder than almost any. And it's not just mom of two, because the morning news anchor, all you have to do is you have to take it and you have to put it in a box, which is going to be your routine. And I talk a lot about routine. And if you can get yourself into a routine where you do the exact same thing every single day, eventually some of the things become habit, right? The alarm goes off at the same time. You go through your morning, whatever you're going to do, stretches, brushing your teeth, make your coffee, drink your water, whatever it is. You get in your shower, you get dressed, you blow dry. It's the same. With kids, it is ticking time bombs at every turn, at every second. I never knew what's going to come out of their mouth. I never knew whether they're going to be a good mood or a bad mood. They could be like 1 second, be like, life is wonderful. And 2 seconds later, my little one could be like, oh, my stomach hurts so bad, I can't even stand up. I'm like, what happened? In one sentence, you never know what's going to happen. And it's not just waking up in the morning. It's literally 24/7. I don't know what's going to, and they're 2 kids, 2 girls, 18 months apart. They may as well be like joined at the hip and fierce competitors all the time. So I almost forgot the question, but the answer is always going to be raising 2 kids is hard, but more rewarding than the morning show. It's always going to be at the end of the day. Yes, but I would do it again if I had to. So that's where I choose.
Amazing.
Well, we want to have a little fun with this one. Your killer athletic antics. What has been your wildest workout pre-surgery and then also post-surgery?
There was a period of time where I think it started as a dare, but it was 100 burpees every single day. And how long can you go? And I did it with someone else. And this was over the course of at home, and then it was over winter break, and I went skiing, and I went to the top of a mountain, and in the big bulky ski boots and everything, I did 100 burpees, which was basically just fall down and then get myself back up and fall. You know how you're in those boots. I ended up doing it. I ended up doing 100 burpees every day for I was like 3 or 4 months or something, and it was insane. It was nuts. I was so happy to not do it again. I took a little time off and then I came back to it. But I've worked out, honestly, every day, if not maybe every other day. I don't think I've taken more than 2 days off, except for this year when I had to because the doctor said I had to, for, since probably freshman year in college when I stumbled upon what working out really meant to me. And now it is like I talk about routine, it is as routine to me as brushing your teeth in the morning or taking a shower. It is something you do as part of your well-being because I don't look at it as work. If you start looking at things as work, they become hard and you automatically put up a barrier towards it. If you look at it as part of who you are, and that's not just a Hallmark card. Like I genuinely mean that it is part of who I am. It becomes much easier and much more accessible, I promise you.
Well, I enjoy seeing you work out and your fitness because it's incredibly inspiring. Again, because I don't know, you're just sharing it all. You're putting it all out there. Some of those workouts look pretty intense, I have to tell you.
Yeah, well, listen, my thing is I and nobody should be beholden to any variable, right? I don't have enough space, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have any equipment, or I don't have workout clothes, or so that's what I did at the Today Show. We did this for like a week straight, where they just literally drop me in all different places, and they're like, do a workout with what you have right in front. It was like in a hotel room, in my living room, in a bathroom, in a hallway, like whatever it was. And you can always find things to do, and it's how I stumbled on like all this body weight stuff. And you have to get creative, and I love getting creative. Like, I used to love getting creative with my writing, then I loved getting creative on television, and now I love getting physically creative because there's all kinds of fun, easy ways. And I have the attention span of a carrot, so if any of my exercises take longer than 30 seconds, I'm bored. So I promise I make it fun. Like, I never want anyone to hate what they're doing because they're never going to do it again. But if I make it fun for you, maybe it's hard, but it's fun, you come back, you keep doing it. So that is also how I continue to keep things sort of interesting and fun for myself.
I'm so, first of all, I'm very inspired by you. Your workouts with your journalism. What inspired you to pursue a career in journalism? And how did you get started in?
Journalism is really telling stories, right? We're all telling stories. I'm giving you access to something that people at home might not have because I'm here in New York. So I get to tell stories about what's happening here, and then I get to tell you about it. So it's a little bit of gossip, and it's gossip like sort of with a microphone. And since I came out of the birth canal, everything was a microphone. I mean, from 3 years old, I was just in the living room talking about what was happening. I was like, here comes daddy, and then daddy's going over there. And my mom would be like, we know, we're doing the thing. Stop telling no one. I would just talk through what was happening. I love telling stories. I love engaging. I love having someone's attention and be able to take them on a ride, where my creativity wants to go. And I always knew this is what I wanted to do in some capacity. I was fearless when it came to being on a stage or in front of a camera or any of it. And I always say the greatest gift you could have is knowing what you want to do early on in life. And you could just hit the ground running, no matter what it is, how hard it is. You just have all that pavement, that you've sort of run through, and it puts you in a better place when you're ready to work. And so my sophomore year in college is when I started interning, like legit interning at the big networks, the Today Show, Dateline, 2020, Primetime Live, and they said, well, their internship was filled. They took, like they have 8 kids and they're not going to accept this. Was, I think, at Dateline. And I said, I'll tell you what. I remember saying this. I said, you don't know me, you don't know my name, but I promise you in about 15 years, I'm going to be working there at Dateline. I promise you, I'm positive. So whatever number of interns you're allowed to have, like, up it by 1. However many people you're allowed to bring, just up it by 1. I've never made a promise that I cannot keep. And I don't know, she must have been in a great mood. And they accepted me. And it was like 2 kids from Stanford, 2 kids from Yale, like 2 kids from Brown, and then me from like Geneseo. She never even heard it. She couldn't even pronounce it. And 13 years later, I was working at the Today Show. So I had made that promise to her. So I always had these like goals that I wanted to do, and I made them 5 years out. So by this year, and I fulfilled a lot of them. I don't know how. Luck and a draw. No one in my family was in the industry. No, I had no friends in the industry. There was not a phone call I could make to help me. It was just like old school grit and determination and again, fearlessness. It was just picking up a phone and making a phone call regardless of whatever the answer was.
Yes. Okay, so what has been your most memorable story from your time as a reporter? Is there anything that really stands out for you?
When I first started, I wanted to be a news reporter. I'll tell this story quickly. And by my senior year, I taught myself how to do everything at the NBC affiliate in Binghamton. When I was ready to graduate, I went to go for a job, and they didn't have a news reporter job opening. They only had a sports reporter job opening. And they said, you should take it because it's hard to get into the business. So I took the job and didn't know anything about sports. Always very athletic, but I never followed sports. And I went home and I studied the way we studied for the SATs, the way we studied for finals, like whatever it was, like legit, or, subscribe to every magazine. I read every newspaper, and then I came in and I studied what I needed to for that day. And I did 2 years of sports, and then I did 2 years of sports in Rochester, and then 3 years of sports in Philadelphia. And then I finally got, and then I got to New York, and I did 3 years of sports at WABC in New York. And then the Today Show called. And they asked if I wanted to come work there. And I said, well, I used to want to do news. Now I only do sports. I did sports for 12 years. They said, we're going to hire you for your personality. News will come when it comes. So when I got to the Today Show, I was doing all kinds of fun stories. So when you say what was my most memorable story, my most memorable story happened to be one that I had never done before, which was a serious story, which was I grew up in Haiti. I grew up in the Caribbean. And after the big earthquake there, they sent me back down as someone who lived there. And one of the stories I did was unplanned. We had one free day, and I was going to look for my nanny who was working with me. She was part of the family, basically. She was there forever, and we left suddenly in the middle of the night one night, and so I never saw her again. I never heard from her. And so my producer said, why don't we make this a story? So we got into this big Jeep, and it was dangerous at the time. I had a bodyguard, and, we had, security, and my producer, and a cameraman, and a driver. And we drove around. We just literally drove through the streets of Port-au-Prince. And I stopped at one place, and I said, do you know so-and-so? And they said, no, but I heard the name. You might want to check this place. We went to that place. We went to this place. We went to like 6 different places. My producer said, look, the story's kind of going nowhere. We really need to turn something around for nightly news tonight. We got one last shot. Someone said she might live at the top of a mountain. I mean, it was like winging a prayer. I said, one last stop. I promise this will be the last stop. We were hot. We were sweaty. It was dirty. It was dangerous. We really needed to get back to the hotel. We come to this mountain, and it was like a bend. And I start walking up the bend, and as if somebody was writing a script. You couldn't even write it like this. This woman who I hadn't seen in 35 years, her name was Angermise, she walks around the corner. And I remembered her as if I was, 10 years old, still living there, like in her arms back when I lived in Haiti. And it was such real, raw, honest emotion. And I ran to her, and I just released myself, released anything I'd ever held on to ever. And I cried for the first time on television, and she cried. And I was wearing this black, someone took a picture of it. It's a beautiful, I was wearing you can even Google it, this black, a vest. And she was wearing this white t-shirt, and our foreheads touched, and we started pouring. And here's this beautiful black woman with this white t-shirt on, and here's me with this black thing, and we're together, and we're hugging and holding each other. And I just cried, and I lost myself, and we didn't need to say anything. And the camera guy got this beautiful shot of us, and we ended up running it as is right on the air that night for nightly news. And it was the most beautiful piece of television I'd ever done. It was honest, and it was true, and it was so much of who I was. And I found this woman. I couldn't have found her if I tried. And it was like someone just reached down and said, here, I'm going to hand this to you, and you may not have another wonderful thing like this for the rest of your life, but I'm going to give this to you right now. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world. And so that's a long way of saying that was probably my most memorable piece of television that I've ever created.
Well,
I have tears in my eyes.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that, Jenna. Oh my goodness.
Well, I love telling stories, and that's me being a storyteller. I just want to be able to do that. And I got to tell a story that day. I got to tell someone's story who probably for the rest of their life would have never had their story told ever. And I'm positive that she will remember that moment, as will I, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was special.
Thank you.
How has your perspective on journalism evolved over the course of your career?
So I'm going to give you an answer. It's probably not the most popular answer. Because of everything that has happened and the direction we have gone in and the sensitivity with which everyone is coming at everything, it has made me almost a little bit apprehensive about this projects that I am approaching, right? And it started when I realized I used to tweet, and then I slowly backed off because I started asking myself all these questions like, am I offending someone? Am I picking a side? Who could I offend with this tweet? And I was overthinking, and then I just didn't tweet, and then I wanted to go for a job here, and I'm like, is that the right job? Is it too right? Is it too left? I hated what was happening. I hated having to overthink. I hated the fact that no matter what I did, I was going to, disrupt some calm in some corner of wherever. And so I have gone back to, so then I got back into sports because sports is black and white. There's a winner or a loser. There are rules, and you have to stick to the rules or you're out. You have to stick to the rules or you're penalized. There's no appealing. There's no, well, maybe there's no, opinion. It is what it is. So I did that for the last 5 years. And I think because of all of what was happening, it pushed me to get back into sports for a while. So now that I'm out of sports and I can go in any direction, I realize I want to go entertain again. Like I don't necessarily know if I want to, to go into an environment where there is such, and maybe that's, listen, I've done enough in this business where I can pick and choose a little bit of where I want to go and how I want to do it. I like making people laugh. I enjoy telling stories. I love saying, hey, listen, come with me. Give me your trust for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to take you on a ride. I promise you, when we get back into port, you're going to feel so good about where we just came from. It's going to be just a blast. So let's go. That's the kind of television I want to do. I don't want to offend anyone. I mean, listen, maybe you'll call me a coward for saying that. And when it's time to get self-righteous about what I need to get self-righteous about, and when it's time to opine, I certainly will. And the issues that are very important to me, obviously I'll stick up and stand up for. I'm a lesbian. I'm Jewish. I'm right now basically, a separated parent. So I check a lot of boxes, but I'm a good person. I don't burn bridges. I got a big heart. Like if you're in my inner circle, there's not a thing on this gigantic earth that I wouldn't do for you anytime, any place. And I just hope that we can all get to a place where we are all moving forward and not moving at each other this way.
Yes. Can you maybe run for president too?
Absolutely. The next time they're ready to vote for a Jewish lesbian president, sign me up.
Really? Yeah, because
13, but call me.
Well, I think your voice out there, it's a voice it's authentic and you're honest, and you have gained so much trust over the course of your career, and you still do on the daily. You're sharing on Instagram your personal journey. I want to talk about what motivated you to share your experience with the preventative hysterectomy and double mastectomy too, because this was a big one.
Look, if life was linear, we would never see Law and Order SVU, and we wouldn't have, the crazy things that happen, and we wouldn't have Page 6. Like, it would just be, everyone would go from A to B, and it would be seamless. But it's the potholes and the mountains and the deviations, and that's what makes life beautiful, right? It does. It's how you handle everything that life throws at you, and that's how I look at people. I'm like, what have you been through? Where did you come from? That's how I know who you are. If everything was gifted and it was easy, I applaud you and bless you. But how deep inside did you really have to look and check yourself? So during the pandemic, or right before the pandemic, my mom got really, really bad cancer. She was diagnosed with triple negative stage 3 breast and lymph node cancer. And she went through a horrible year and a half, 2 years of radiation and chemo, and it was really, really awful. And I felt terrible for her, but she's so strong. I don't even understand. I'm not a fraction of how strong she is. And she got through it, and when it was all done, and she got over it. Thank God she got past it. She tested positive for BRCA, but the BRCA1 cancer gene. But because of how bad her cancer was, the medical advice from geneticists to me when I tested, and I also tested positive, was, you need to go through these preventative measures, because should you get cancer in between, the other alternative was to get MRIs every 6 months. Should you get cancer, or should we find something in the middle, it would be too severe and you'd have to undergo chemo, right? I was like, I had wonderful kids. I'm so blessed. Let's go. Like, what's, there's no downside. Let's do this. My numbers were at like 44%. So I was walking around with it like almost a 1 in 2 chance of getting breast cancer. I was so lucky that I hadn't up until then. So I went in, I didn't know anything about anything. I'm a woman, and I honestly, I didn't know what a hysterectomy was. Like, I honestly didn't. I've heard of mastectomies, but like I never really dug deep. And you don't know something until you really go through it. And it was something. It was the biggest something that I've ever been through. And I approached it like I approached everything else. I went in, I met with the surgeon, and he's like, "When can I get you on my schedule?" I was like, "You're asking me? I don't, Thursday." So he's like, "How about next Tuesday?" I was like, "I guess." And my mom came with me the whole time, which I think was beautiful, because I couldn't be there for her during the pandemic, but she came in with me. I did it at Sloan Kettering, and we did the whole bit. And I had a bunch of complications, which I'm glossing over now, but the complications set me back a while, and it took start to finish about 9 months of being in and out of the hospital and regrowing and recovering and rebranding and regrowing. And my mom was there with me, and I had some good friends, and it was like, up until there was a moment. So right after I had Harper, right after I had my first child, Harper, who is now 10, there was a moment the night that I had her. I'm going to say this in as kosher way possible, because I don't want to gross anybody out. But like, there was a moment, and like, think about it. Like, if you have, I'm going to get away from the sun. If you have a kid, bleh, and it wasn't a C-section, bleh, I'll just say that. There's a lot of stuff. And there was a moment where it was like late at night, we had to call a nurse, and there was like an enormous amount of bleeding. And I was like, oh my God. And it was a very low point in my life. I was like, well, I said to Steph at the time, I'm like, this is the lowest point. It was like, people were like helping me clean up, and I couldn't stand up, and I was attached to IVs. I'm like, well, may it not get lower than this. And then there was a moment after surgery where there was some bruising, and there was a lot of, and I said that again to myself, because we had a pretty decent setback. And I said, okay, well, I got through the first one, and look at me, and I'll get through the second one, and here I am sitting down with you, Serena, and Colby right now. So what is a low point if not a trampoline to bounce back from, and to show yourself how far you've come? And I have. And I am 10 and a half weeks removed from surgery. I did 2 workouts this morning. I did a 7:30, and then I did an 8:30. I'm as strong as I've been. And, we can do hard things. I can do hard things. You can do hard things. My kids can do hard things. And it's a wonderful lesson in resiliency.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, because you also, do it so well. You're telling the story while you're writing the story. It's really incredible. Thank you.
So what you just said is so important. Telling the story while you're writing the story, right? Because too often, what do? We wait for the story to be over until it has a shiny ending. We go to CVS, we put a nice little bow on it. We're like, boom, shagalaga, there's the story. But like, if you can write the story and tell the story while you're living the story, when you don't know the ending, like, I know that I don't know the ending. Like, I don't have a job right now, and it's terrifying, right? It's terrifying to know that I'm raising these 2 kids, and I don't have a job, and I know I need to get a job, and I don't know where this ends. And tomorrow could be the ending. Who knows? Like, I could get a job tomorrow. But I'm telling you the story while I'm living it, where I still have the fears and the insecurities and all of it. And I don't need it to be a perfect story for me to tell it to you. It could just be my story, or a real story, or your story. And that, I think, is a really hard thing for people to wrap their head around. You said it perfectly. It's telling your story while you're writing the story.
Yeah, and you do that really well. I mean, as you're sharing on the daily, with, I know that there's, right, I want to get back to what we spoke about before we started the show, and it's where you are right now. And it's yeah, the not knowing, but it is going forward every step of the way. And you talked about kind of what this moment in time is about and, really starting over again, if you will, with fitness, right? Getting back into it. You're getting stronger. My goodness, you already had 2 workouts today. You're strong, probably, stronger, and muscle memory is right there. So can you talk about that, like where things are right now? And, yeah, because you're really amazing, and this is informing so many in our daily lives, right? How we should all go, how we should all move forward, how we should all be motivated to walk through life.
Well, I think what it is when we get to a moment in life where we're scared about something, we spend so much time being scared that we don't live your life, right? So I learned my lesson. So when I left the Today Show, there were 2 years before I got to Fox Sports, and I was in the same boat. I was nervous. What am I going to do? Where am I going to do it? How am I going to do? And I spent so much time worrying about that I don't remember living during that phase. I just remember always being worried. And my friends were like, "Remember how you were always complaining, always worried about always." And so I didn't want to do it this time. Am I as worried? Yeah. Am I as sort of unclear about the future? Absolutely. But I still want to stay in the present while I'm doing it. I want that fear to motivate me and not to keep me from taking a step forward. And so, you have to look at your life as like having these crossroads, and you're at a crossroads. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make a right or a left or go straight. I'm in some kind of intersection. But if I freeze in that intersection and don't make any choice at all because I'm so nervous about making the wrong one, or so nervous that I'm not going to have the opportunity to even take the turn, well, I'm doing myself the disservice. But I want my kids to see that it's okay to be happy and still not know what you're doing. It's okay to be happy and still be stressed out. It's okay to live your life every single day and still have no effing clue what the next day is going to hold. And that's where I'm at right now.
I will tell you, you are a force. I mean, you uplifted me today. I'm just telling you, I was having a pretty good day. Get on here with you. You're like, whoa, I feel so good now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I'm only one person. I know you do this for a lot of people. So
I try. It's platforms like this that help me sort of talk about it and tell it, because I don't know what to do with all of that right now. I have a lot of messaging and I don't know where to put it.
Well, we are so lucky and so honored to have had this time with you as you go off on your day to help your daughter secure that black skirt, and for whatever weaves and bobs and turns are to come. We really thank you for sitting down with us. And yeah, I'm going to walk into the rest of the day with a really bright and like open perspective, because there's endless opportunities. And thank you for reminding us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's feels good. Like I said when I started, there's this like cathartic like release when you talk about things that are important to you, to people who want to hear that messaging. So it felt really great. I loved being on here, and you guys are awesome. And thank you again for letting me be here.